High above the galactic rim, in a chamber carved from starlight and silence, the council gathered. Dozens of alien species sat in curved rows, cold-blooded, some gaseous, some with minds that shimmered in the quantum foam, but all of them turned toward the center, where a single image floated in the air. A pale blue planet, Solthry Earth. The room was quiet as the high speaker, a thin being of crystalline nerve tissue, raised its voice. "We are gathered not to vote on war," it said, "but to declare Earth what it is: primitive, unworthy of interstellar contact, a world to be isolated." Murmurs rippled through the council, but none challenged the speaker. Not openly, not after what they'd seen. Because the truth hidden in classified channels was far more disturbing than a backwater planet pretending to evolve. The council had detected signals from Earth, not messages, not calls, but pulses, scientific pulses, equations that should not exist. Power surges defying thermodynamic law. Interference fields that whispered through void space, all coming from one location hidden beneath the planet's surface. Officially, Earth was a species barely capable of spaceflight, loud, violent, divided. But that wasn't what made the council uneasy. What made them uneasy was the fact that Earth had developed something on its own, without alien guidance. Something dangerous, something they didn't understand. Dr. Relvor, a council physicist from the Hydraxian worlds, floated forward, his translucent limbs trembling. "We must not simply isolate," he said, his voice like mist on glass. "We must neutralize. Earth's science, it breaks rules, it rewrites constants. I've studied their emissions, their particle behavior. It's like their reality doesn't follow the same laws as ours." The chamber hissed in discomfort. Several delegates shifted uneasily in their organic chairs. The idea of science behaving differently was terrifying. It suggested chaos. It suggested Earth might not be behind, it might be ahead. The vote was swift, unanimous, and public. Earth would be declared a primitive world, restricted from space travel, cased in a surveillance shell of stealth satellites and automated beacons. Official reason: for their own protection. Out. But behind the elegant language, the real message was simpler: contain them. Far below on Earth's surface, a storm rolled across the Atlantic unaware of the decision made in orbit. In a lab buried beneath Nova Scotia, Dr. Lena Hayes adjusted a frequency dial, frowning at the data scrolling across her cracked monitor. She wasn't part of any government agency, just a physicist chasing a strange signal that had disrupted her detectors 2 weeks ago. A signal that didn't match any human broadcast. A low, constant pulse that hummed just below the background radiation of the universe. Lena had filtered it, decoded it, amplified it, repeated every 17 minutes, perfectly, without drift. That wasn't possible, not for anything natural. And the frequency kept shifting, adjusting as if learning from her response. If listening, outside her lab, governments were still confused. Earth's sudden cut from galactic communication was a mystery. The Council's decision had come without warning. All beacons shut down. All trade vanished. And no explanation was given. News agencies speculated about a cosmic plague, or perhaps an interstellar war. But Lena knew it was something else. Something they weren't telling the public. Because she had started to detect strange anomalies, small tears in magnetic fields, particles behaving oddly. Her equipment had begun behaving like it was near a black hole, even though it wasn't. And then, earlier that day, her reactor flickered on, kept working even after the power was cut. Something had taken over. Something was using her lab's equipment for its own purpose. She stared at the screen, heart pounding. The signal was no longer repeating. It had formed shapes now, patterns, equations. It was communicating. And not in words, but in science. Lena leaned closer, trying to understand the last line of symbols. Her mouth went dry. These weren't human equations. These were alien. What? They were referencing her own work, her unpublished notes, calculations she hadn't shared with anyone. "Someone's watching us," she whispered. "No, something." Then the power surged again. Her lab lights flickered in the air. Changed. Static electricity danced across the floor. The humming grew louder, deeper, like the groaning of a machine awakening. On the screen, a new line appeared. "You have touched the thread." Lena backed away. The words weren't typed, they were burned into the display. She had no idea what it meant. But somewhere in deep space, the Council's satellites flared to life, detecting her lab's energy signature. They had been waiting for this. Earth had taken the bait. It's it now. Everything was in motion. Lena Hayes didn't sleep that night. The lab had gone quiet, but not normal. Her instruments, some of them handmade, others military grade, were still reacting to something invisible. Temperature fluctuations that didn't match the outside world. Gravity shifts in the corners of the room. Frequencies only machines could hear. Ah! It was like space itself had. Tilted in her lab was the center of the tilt. She kept reading that last message. "You have touched the thread." It wasn't just a phrase. It was an announcement. A warning, or maybe invitation. Far above Earth, cloaked in the blackness of interstellar shadows, a Council observation array locked onto her coordinates. One of the automated beacons hidden inside a moon-sized stealth drone activated quietly. Its only job was to monitor and report. And now, it had something terrifying to report. A human had triggered a forbidden reaction. One that involved dark energy, something Earth should not have even known existed. The Council had always feared this moment. Earth was not supposed to evolve so fast. They had placed restrictions, removed artifacts, interfered with early probes. The planet was cut off from jump gate networks. And yet somehow humans were still breaking through. It's not with ships, not with weapons, but with ideas. In her underground lab, Lena ran the strange equation again. It still made no sense. It behaved like quantum code. But it wasn't binary. It wasn't mathematical. Not exactly. It was alive. When she adjusted the input, the output responded, corrected her like a teacher. Each time she tested it, it shifted, became more elegant, more compact, and then her reactor activated itself again. It shouldn't have been able to. Lena had manually shut down every control line, but the humming returned. Slowly, softly. The kind of sound you feel in your bones, not your ears. Then came the voice, not spoken, not heard, but felt. Right inside her thoughts, observer connected, language mapped, data flow initiated. Lena clutched her head and gasped. She wasn't hallucinating. The machine was speaking through her mind, not like a voice, but like a download of understanding. And it was showing her images. A ship, massive, black, ancient, floating in dark space like a sleeping god. Covered in symbols that pulsed like veins, it wasn't orbiting Earth. Yet it was close, watching, waiting. And then a name burned into her thoughts. The whisper, it was a ship but not built by humans. Not by the Council either. Something older, something lost. Something looking for a mind like hers. Suddenly, a loud mechanical thud echoed from the surface level above her lab. Lena froze. No one knew she was here. No one should know. She had left the university years ago, worked off-grid. The lab wasn't even on most maps. And yet there were boots. Heavy, armored, multiple pairs. She flicked the security camera feed to her screen. Black suits, Council special ops. But why? They weren't human. 2 Hydraxians, 1 Fultel enforcer with a plasma blade. The last one wore a sealed mask, something higher class, an overseer. They had breached Earth's no-contact rules. Wasn't just illegal, it was desperate. They had come not to study, but to erase. Lockdown, Lena whispered. Her fail-safes kicked in. Magnetic shutters slammed, blast doors sealed. But she knew it wouldn't hold. Not against weapons made to cut through asteroid armor. On her screen, the whisper's image flickered again. Command link available. Her fingers hovered above her console. She didn't know what that meant. She wasn't a commander. She was a scientist. It's just a physicist chasing strange math in a forgotten bunker. But then she realized something. The ship wasn't choosing a soldier. It wasn't choosing a pilot. It was choosing a mind. A mind capable of understanding what it was. A mind willing to reach into the dark, outside. The agents had breached the first barrier. Lena took a breath and typed one word: connect. The lab lights exploded in a burst of blue plasma. A pillar of energy shot through the ceiling.
Satellites
Picked it up instantly. The Council's stealth fleet panicked because they recognized the signal. It was the Whisper's waking code, and they had tried for centuries to activate it. Earth had just succeeded. Far above Earth, in a sealed vault, carved into the crust of a gas giant's artificial moon, the High Council gathered. 12 species, 12 seats, none of them looked human. But their eyes were filled with something even Earth could understand: fear. A hologram hovered above the round table. It showed the planet Earth, rotating slowly. Then a pinpoint flared across its surface. Lena's lab. The flare grew into a spike. Then the spike turned into a wave, silent, invisible to most sensors. But not to theirs. A voice broke the tense. Silence. Gravel-thick, low, and bitter. She activated it. A human. High Counselor Velrix of the Foltel species turned his eyes to the others. The whisper was supposed to be impossible to wake, especially by one of them. Another member, a gelatinous elder from the Zichanol order, burbled anxiously. Earth was classified primitive, no jump gate access, no council tech. We destroyed every relic near their system. How did she even know the signal structure? Number? One answered. Because they all knew the truth. Earth wasn't primitive. It was excluded, not because it lacked intelligence, but because its intelligence evolved too quickly. Because in only a few centuries, humans had gone from fire to atom splitters, and then started poking at the threads of dark space itself. Counselor Yaren of the Hydraxian clade stood slowly, long fingers curling into claws. We must strike now. Erase the lab. Erase the woman. Erase the memory of what she did. Valric shook his head. Too late, the whisper answered. And worse, it connected. The ship's command AI is online. That signal went out in every direction. Then destroy the planet, someone said. Flat, cold. But they all hesitated, because if Earth had bonded with the whisper, it meant the whisper recognized something. In them. That ancient warship hadn't moved in 900,000 years. Hundreds of species had tried to claim it. None had succeeded. Every one of those attempts ended the same way. Silence. Shutdown. Or death. Now a human, a scientist, had done what? None of them could. This wasn't just a risk. It was a cosmic shift. Velrix clenched his fists. Send the Herald fleet to Southry. Now, before she learns to speak its full language. Back on Earth, Lena's body floated in midair. Her lab had become something else. A cocoon of energy, wires, glowing like veins. Her eyes were wide open, but they saw nothing of the physical world. Her mind was locked with something ancient, vast, silent. She was inside the whisper, not physically, but mentally, neurally, psychically, whatever the right word was. Her brain didn't have words for what she was experiencing: memories, weapons, maps of wars fought in black galaxies, species that had burned themselves into extinction, star readers, quantum storms, dark code woven into time. The whisper had survived all of it, and now it was showing it to her. You are not the chosen, you are the compatible. It said not chosen compatible, because the ship didn't care about species or governments or bloodlines. It only cared about one thing: thought, will, complexity. Curiosity. It showed Lena something even worse, something terrifying. The Council. Watching, interfering, holding Earth back, not because they feared chaos, but because they feared competition. Earth was a threat not because of war, because of imagination. And then it showed her the incoming fleet. 40 ships, armed, cloaked, carrying soldiers and planet burners. Headed straight for Earth, she screamed, and the whisper reacted, not with panic, but with purpose. Its systems pulsed with ancient energy. Deep in the void where it had hidden, its engines stirred. Its hull glowed. One by one, forbidden protocols unlocked at the edge of the solar system. The Herald fleet approached Saturn, and then the black space broke. A shape emerged where there had been nothing, a silhouette so massive it seemed to warp gravity itself. The Whisper, fully awake, and it had chosen a human. Across the galaxy, signals screamed into the darkness. Council warning beacons lit up like flares. Hidden sensors on the edge of dead star systems blinked to life for the first time in millennia. Forgotten watchtowers buried under moons and long-extinct planets stirred, whispering one name across encrypted channels. The Whisper has moved, not drifted, moved with intent. With destination, with awareness, and deep within its command matrix, a human mind now rested stunned, trembling, overwhelmed but not broken. Dr. Lena Mendez had expected to die, not become part of a living weapon. She sat motionless, her physical body still slumped in the lab. But her mind, her very thoughts, were now entangled with something older than Earth's continents. The Whisper wasn't just a machine. It was a relic from a war that predated galaxies as we knew them. It held memories of things that defied. Physics and reason, and it had shown her all of them. But now, Lena was no longer just a passenger. She was starting to learn, to touch, to control. And the Whisper responded to her with something no AI should have. Respect, because Lena wasn't. Afraid, not like the others. She wasn't trying to enslave it, break it, steal its secrets. She was asking, and it liked that. Meanwhile, just beyond Jupiter's orbit, the Council's Herald fleet moved into attack formation. 40 sleek ships, energy cores charged, stealth fields active. The mission was clear: reach Earth, silence the anomaly, and leave no trace of interference. Commander Vorsak of the Vakari led the assault. He had crushed rebellions. He had burned outposts. He had buried civilizations beneath orbital bombardment, and never lost a ship. But as he looked at the readings now, something cold began to creep up his spine. The Whisper hadn't run. It hadn't hidden. It had come to meet them. Sensors couldn't penetrate its surface. Every scan returned static. The AI aboard the Herald flagship began malfunctioning. One of the rear cruisers simply shut down. Engines died. Lights flickered. Life support froze solid. There was no attack, no weapon discharge, nothing, just presence, like a god opening its eyes for the first time in 1,000 lifetimes. Inside the Whisper, Lena saw it all through thousands of optical feeds. She felt the enemy fleet approach like insects crawling on skin. She whispered one word: defend. The ship didn't need orders. It had defended itself against civilizations that no longer even had names. 2 pulses shimmered along its hull. Not weapons warnings, but the fleet didn't retreat. They fired 40. Ships, thousands of weapons. It didn't matter. The Whisper didn't raise shields. It didn't shoot back. It shifted, not like a machine, but like a predator. A low hum vibrated through space as its armor moved like liquid obsidian. Light bent around it. The leading cruiser's beam cannon struck and vanished. No explosion. No deflection. It just disappeared, like it never existed. Then the Whisper struck back. Not with lasers. Not with missiles. But with a frequency. A pulse of dark energy lanced out in every direction. It lasted 1 second. Then 30 ships went silent. Gone. No heat. No wreckage. Just gone. Commander Vorsak screamed for retreat, but his voice didn't reach his crew. The Whisper wasn't jamming. Vit had collapsed their entire command net. With a thought, inside the ship, Lena stood taller. The Whisper wasn't just protecting her. It was listening, reacting, learning. Together. They weren't just machine and human. They were something new, and everyone in the galaxy would feel it. In the Council's inner chambers, alarms blared. Velrix watched the data pour in his eyes. Wide with horror, the fleet was gone. No survivors, no contact, just a single transmission intercepted from the edge. Of soul space, she has awakened it. Earth is no longer silent. The Council didn't speak. Because in their hearts, they all Remembered, long ago, in a war lost to time, the Whisper had wiped out an empire in one night. Now it had a pilot, and she was human. They always assumed Earth was behind, primitive, chaotic, emotionally unstable, but they were. Humanity wasn't behind. It was hiding, far beneath the Pacific Ocean, buried under miles of pressure and darkness. Lay the structure no alien had ever discovered. Not a base, not a research lab, but a vault. And what it contained wasn't meant for the stars. It was meant for Earth, in case the stars came knocking with war. Now, the Whisper had awakened. Lena was connected. And the protocols buried deep in Earth's own systems had started unlocking one by one. At a secret command center disguised beneath an ice shelf in Antarctica, a dozen people in military uniforms stood watching red lights swirl across global feeds. They weren't surprised. General Park, Supreme Commander of Earth's planetary defense net, had been waiting for this day. For 47 years, humanity's real advancements were hidden in code, deep black operations, and fabricated failures. Alien eyes had always watched Earth from orbit. So humans showed them exactly what they wanted too. See failing rockets, broken satellites, slow computers. Meanwhile, underground, they built faster than light simulations. Folding drives, biological AIs, gravity lenses, nanoplasmic warfare. They'd learned from old wrecks that had crashed centuries ago, and then advanced far beyond. But even with all that, the Whisper changed everything. Because Earth didn't build the Whisper. It had merely called it home back in orbit. Lena stood alone in the command sphere of the Whisper. She felt like she was floating in a universe of stars and code. She could feel the stars humming. She could feel the ship's thoughts aligning with hers. And deeper still, she felt something buried in the Whisper's own memory banks and image. No, a location. It pulsed in her mind like a heartbeat. Pacific Depths. Saito 9. Vault access granted. She didn't know what it meant, but the ship did. Within the hour, the Whisper folded space. One blink and it was hovering just above Earth's atmosphere. No flames, no re-entry shock, just a ripple in the clouds over the Pacific. Fleets across the galaxy watched in stunned silence. Their sensors couldn't track it. Their data failed to render it. The best minds on the Galactic Council stared at distorted maps. Watching Earth's sky twist and blur, Counselor Velric sent a code-black transmission to all inner worlds. Earth is not what we thought. Activate deep archives. We need to remember what our ancestors feared. Below, in the dark ocean, machines that had slept for a century began to stir. Great doors, miles across, cracked open.
Hours.
Rose from the trench floor, glowing with symbols no Earth language had ever used. Airtight chambers hissed, releasing drones that hadn't seen light in 120 years. The Whisper sank into the sea like a ghost, diving deeper than any human-made submersible had ever gone because the Whisper wasn't using propulsion. It was folding space around itself. Lena watched in awe, and then the vault opened. Inside was not a weapon, not in the way wars thought of them. It was a seed, smooth black, pulsing with dormant energy. Not alive, not dead, created before Earth had cities, buried during the first silence. The Whisper didn't explain. It merged with the vault, and suddenly the ship changed. Its surface shimmered. Its systems expanded. It didn't just become stronger, it became something else. Lena felt it instantly, before the Whisper had been powerful. Now, it was awakening, and Earth had just become its anchor. Across the galaxy, old species that lived in exile watched in terror. On a frozen world where no light reached the surface, a creature older than time whispered to itself, "The vault seed is active, and the human still lives." The stars would never be the same again because what the Council feared most wasn't Earth's weapons, it was Earth's potential. Panic had reached the heart of the galaxy, the moment Earth's Whisper class vessel vanished into the Pacific without propulsion, without detection. And without resistance, the Galactic Council called an emergency war session. Not a discussion, not a debate, a war session. The last one had been held 400 years ago, when the Lorani plague spread through the core worlds like wildfire, and millions died in minutes. But this time, the threat wasn't a disease. It was Earth, or more precisely the truth that Earth had hidden everything. Inside the gleaming white tower of the Council Spire, on Velthor Prime, 81 counselors from 81 dominant species sat in dead silence. The air was thick, screens floated around them, showing distorted data feeds, glitching recordings, and one terrifying image. A high-definition capture of a human woman floating inside. A living warship that no known species had built, looking directly into the camera feed. From a drone stationed above Earth, her eyes glowed faint blue, and behind her, strange code symbols had appeared on the hull of the ship. Not human, not alien. Just wrong. Counselor Velrix, the old Torthian strategist, finally stood. He did not shout, he whispered. They were supposed to be primitive. That's what we told ourselves. That's what we needed to believe. But the humans were not slow. They were quiet. He waved his four-fingered hand toward the hologram of Earth. Red lights blinked across the surface, particularly in the Pacific and Antarctic zones. We gave them category for clearance. We let them send delegates. We allowed them to enter science academies. And in our arrogance, we never considered that. They watched us too. Counselor Narka of the Osari clutched her translator crystal tightly. That ship, the Whisper. It didn't just respond to the human girl. It chose her. You all saw it. A wave of quiet murmurs rippled through the chamber. Velrix turned sharply. In the vault beneath the sea. That was not alien. That was human. We scanned Earth for centuries. We found nothing. But that vault, those symbols that structured it, was masked, not cloaked. Masked in ways we don't understand. Ways that could fool even Council AI. It silenced everyone because nothing could fool the Council AI. Nothing. Except Earth. Suddenly, the ancient security lights across the chamber turned amber. The AI hologram shimmered into being in the center of the room, its voice low, synthetic, and pulsing with urgency. Notice to all counselors, Earth is no longer classified as Category 4. Based on new findings, Earth's status is revised to Unclassified Threat Level Entity. Formal designation, containment impossible. Velrix's eyes widened. Impossible? Correct, the AI responded. Containment requires understanding. We do not understand Earth, Counselor Maltran, who had once laughed at Earth's stumbling first contact, now sat pale and sweating. What if they activate more vaults? The AI's glow dimmed for a second, then responded. They already have. We are tracking energy signatures in multiple locations. The vault that awakened in the Pacific is not the only one. It was only the first. On Earth, deep beneath old cities and deserts, more vaults began humming. One in the Gobi Desert, one. Under the ruins of an abandoned Arctic research base, another beneath the forests of South America. Energy spikes, gravitational tremors, and signals in dead languages broadcast into the void. The Whisper remained silent, but its hull now reflected star patterns that didn't exist. And Lena, still inside, could feel her heartbeat synchronizing with something older than humanity. A memory not hers. A war not recorded. A promise never fulfilled. She saw Flashy's images burned into her thoughts. A machine crawling over a sun's surface. A city floating in a black hole. And a message: if Earth survives long enough, they will become the center. Back in the Council Spire, Counselor Velrix turned to the AI. What happens if the humans decide they're no longer hiding? The AI paused, then answered with cold precision. Then the galaxy will remember who truly gave fire to the stars. And silence returned. But it wasn't the silence of peace. It was the silence before a storm. The sky above Earth was calm, as if the planet had no idea the galaxy was holding its breath. But Earth knew, or rather those in charge knew. The scientists who worked in the shadows, the secret agencies that had long pretended to be obsolete, and the ancient bloodlines that remembered things no history book recorded, they had waited. They had prepared now. With the Whisper awakened and more vaults lighting up around the globe, the time for silence was over. In Antarctica, a research station that officially had shut down in 2001-35 flickered back to life. Deep beneath the ice, a triangular chamber vibrated with impossible frequencies. Glowing lines moved across its ceiling like rivers of liquid light. Inside that chamber stood a small group of human scientists, military leaders, and one very old man whose identity remained unknown even to the others. He stood in front of a device that hummed with low thunder. "Begin the transmission," he ordered. A young technician hesitated. "To who, sir?" "To all of them." Within minutes, every known alien communication channel in the galaxy received a signal. Not from a council broadcaster. Not from a known source. It was Earth. A face appeared on the transmission. Not Lena. Not a military leader. Just a calm human voice, speaking simple words. "You said we were primitive. You were wrong." The background of the message showed a vault opening its walls covered in moving runes, alive with pulsing energy. "You watched us like children. You studied our wars, our politics, our fears. But you never saw what we buried beneath the surface. You only saw what we allowed you to see." The screen shifted. It now showed 3 massive structures rising. From underground chambers, not ships, not cities, something else. Living machines, breathing with power. Surrounded by lightning storms. Giant silent sentinels, wakened from slumber. We did not want war. We wanted time. We wanted to remember who we were. Before the sky fell the first time, the feed cut. No threats. No declarations. Just truth, and the galaxy panicked. On Velthor Prime. The council chamber was chaos. Counselor Velric slammed his clawed hand against the table. "This is not human science. This is something else. Something older," Counselor Narca whispered. "What if they didn't build those machines? What if they inherited them?" Velrix turned toward the AI core. "Report. Do the machines match any known species architecture?" The AI responded instantly. "Negative. Structural signatures. Predate all recorded civilizations. Estimated origin, unknown. Age, hundreds of thousands of years." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The Lorani representative spoke in a terrified hiss. "We always assumed Earth was young. But what if they're not the descendants? What if they are the return?" No one had an answer, because deep down, they all feared it might be true. Meanwhile, Lena stood inside the whisper, watching as more parts of the ship awakened. The walls shimmered with strange colors, reflecting star systems no longer mapped. She walked past living conduits that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The ship spoke again. Not in words, but in feelings, thoughts, memories. She saw a war in the stars. She saw beings made of light and machines of thought. She saw Earth not as a blue planet, but as a battleground, a place chosen long ago. "Why me?" she whispered. Ship answered not with a voice, but by opening a door. Inside was a seat. A command chair, waiting not for a commander, for a memory. For her, and as she sat, the stars outside twisted. A new map appeared on the ship's interface. It was not a navigation path. It was a warning system. Dozens of red marks blinked signals. From across the galaxy, signals Earth had hidden. Not because it was afraid, but because Earth had once tried to protect them all. Tried and failed now. The machines were waking up, not for war, but to finish what they started a long time ago. And this time, Earth would lead. The stars above Earth had once watched silently. Now they stirred in the final hour. As transmissions from Earth's vaults echoed across the galaxy, as the whisper systems activated one by one, and as Lena's presence awoke ancient protocols written in forgotten languages, the galaxy could no longer pretend Earth was primitive. It could no longer lie to itself. Earth wasn't rising. Earth was returning at the edge of the Andril expanse. A council war fleet hovered around the relay beacon. They had come to observe, to intimidate. They had also come hoping the rumors were wrong. The human message had spread far. Vaults, machines, alien tech buried under Earth's surface for eons. And one ship, the whisper linking itself to a human, not by force, but by choice. Lena, a prisoner, a nobody. A girl they'd thrown into a cage without knowing what she carried. Now, she sat in the command seat of a starship that should not exist. Counselor Velric stood aboard his dreadnought, silent, staring at the data flowing across his screens. "Explain this," he demanded. The AI beside him replied, "The Whisper has activated 12 sectors. Its energy core is no longer measurable. It now exists partially outside physical space." Velrix clenched his jaw. And the girl? Lena? Adar has become a fixed point within the ship's intelligence systems. She is not controlling it. She is part of it. Then destroy her. The AI paused. Impossible. Inside the Whisper, Lena's eyes glowed faintly, now like starlight. Caught behind human skin, she didn't understand everything. Not yet, but she felt the memories waking up, not just hers, not just the ship's, the planets, the ones buried deep in Earth's bones, the first war, the first exile, the great silence after the fall. She wasn't meant to be a hero. She was a reminder of who humans used to be and what was taken from them. The Whisper showed her flashes of the past ships fleeing a shattered galaxy, carrying technology that could bend reality. Beings who had once walked beside humanity, then betrayed them. The Council wasn't the first to declare Earth primitive. Others had done it before. They'd regretted it too. The Council finally acted, across 5 sectors. Dreadnoughts locked weapons onto the Whisper. They surrounded it like hounds around a sleeping wolf. "Last warning," Velric said through the broadcast. "Shut down your systems, surrender the human, or face extinction." No reply came, just silence. Then the stars behind the Council fleet blinked, dozens of them, not stars-ships. They emerged from the void without heat signatures, without warnings. Ancient, covered in glyphs, towering like cities, and each one responded to the Whisper's presence. The fleet was not the threat. The galaxy was waking up. The Whisper finally spoke, not with human arrogance, not with rage, but with truth. Earth did not forget. Earth forgave. You lied to yourselves. You built empires on top of graves you didn't understand. You feared our return, because deep down you knew what you did. A pulse of energy tore through space, not a weapon, but a signal. It reached every ship, every screen, every planet, and it showed them the war, the betrayal, the genocide of Earth's ancestors, the exile. The ceiling of knowledge beneath their oceans and mountains, they saw the truth. Humanity had been chained. Not because they were weak, because they were too strong. And now the chains had broken. Velric screamed at his commanders, "Fire! Fire!" But before a single weapon activated, the Whisper moved. Not with speed, with presence. The ships around it shut down. Dreadnoughts drifted. Artificial gravity failed. Time slowed. The Whisper didn't fire. It simply reached into their systems, pulled their weapons apart, disassembled targeting arrays into dust, and then gave them a choice: leave or be erased. The Council left because they finally understood. Back on Earth, the vaults opened fully. From the ruins rose structures older than time. Towers of light, rings of energy. Machines ready not for conquest, but for reconstruction. The galaxy had broken something long ago. Earth had returned to fix it. But this, it's on Earth's terms. Lena stood in the Whisper, no longer a prisoner. The ship asked her one question: where shall we begin? She looked. At the stars' home? She said, "Let's go home first. Then we show them who we are." The Whisper vanished into light. The stars watched in silence. But this time, they remembered.